Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. And we're going to be switching gears now and taking a closer look at Aqsa Week in focus, looking at Jerusalem's sacred history and its significance. Jerusalem is one of the oldest cities in the world and is home to Al-Aqsa Mosque, a site that's very, very essential to Islamic history and identity. Every year, Aqsa Week commemorates its spiritual, cultural, and historical significance and highlighting its role not just as a religious landmark, but as a symbol for communities around the globe, especially those of the Islamic faith. And to help us unpack the history and current realities and importance of Aqsa Week in 2026, we are joined live from Jerusalem by Dr. Ehab Jallad, historian, specialist, and author on the subject. Dr. Jallad, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Thank you, and I'm welcoming all the audience.
The pleasure's all ours, and I think we'll just jump right into it. From your perspective, the research that you've made and the work that you've done around Al-Aqsa Mosque, how central is it to Islamic history and identity, and how important is it to work towards the preservation of the Al-Aqsa Mosque?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Aqsa was not just like an ancient site or just the third of the three holiest sites, as some may think of. But Al-Aqsa has a centralized, centered in Islamic since the beginning. For example, by the connection of the night journey. The night journey, we are commemorating the night journey, Isra al-Mi'raj, and the night journey connected Mecca with Al-Quds. Why it connects Mecca to Al-Quds? There is a very nice reflection that we need to bear in mind, that the Prophet ﷺ had the revelation in Mecca. Most of the prophets, they had the revelation in Al-Quds, in Jerusalem, like Isa, Zakaria, Yahya, Sulaiman, Dawood, many other prophets. They had Ibrahim alayhi salam, also Ishaq, Yaqub, Yusuf. They were all they had their revelation and they lived their life in the Holy Land. But Muhammad alayhi salam, they had his early life and he had the revelation in Mecca. So Allah Azza wa Jal made him traveling to Al-Quds in a miraculous way, just to lead all the prophets and to meet them in Al-Quds and to lead all the prophets in his night journey, to prove to the world that it is centralized to the Muslim, and the Muslim gonna be the leaders of the whole prophets, and the Muslim Ummah are the inheritance of the whole nations. And the Prophet ﷺ is he will inherit all the prophets that were before him. And then from Jerusalem gonna be an immediate and direct relation with the sky. So from there, the Prophet to heavens, where he received the 5 prayers, which means that Al-Quds had a direct relation with the heavens. It was at least twice. Once when Isa ﷺ ascended to heaven, when he ascended, being rescued from the infidels, and the second time when the Prophet ﷺ, Muhammad, ascended to heaven to receive the 5 prayers. So that's the centralized like position of Jerusalem in Islamic history in the past. Not to forget the future, where it is mentioned that the land of Al-Quds, the Holy Land, Jerusalem, gonna be the land of gathering and resurrection. So it means that the day of judgment gonna happen in the area, in the vicinity of Jerusalem, where everything named in the Masjid Al-Aqsa is representing that event. For example, we have the valley of hellfire, where the sinners will fall. Then we have the bridge of the Sirat, expanding from Mount of Olives to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. If you manage to cross that bridge and you didn't fall to the valley, you will be able to cross through the Gate of Mercy, the Bab al-Rahma. And if you are mercied, then you enter the heaven, and therefore the northern gate of Dome of the Rock, it's called the Gate of Heavens. So in the future, it's going to be the seat of the last Khilafat, where the Masih alayhi salam and the Mahdi, they're gonna be summoned, and they're gonna rule the whole universe from Al-Quds, where it's gonna bring peace back and justice to the whole world before the day of judgment.
No, most definitely. I want to touch on a different aspect of this conversation, because as I was preparing for this, I was talking to one of our colleagues, and they're of the Muslim faith, and they're of the Christian faith, and they wanted to know what is the significance of the Al-Aqsa compound, and not necessarily the mosque in itself, to Christians, and can Christians also assist in making sure that the compound is preserved, which ultimately will lead to the preservation and protection of the mosque?
Definitely, the Al-Aqsa Mosque was important to Isa, because Isa made his speeches. He made his first preaches in Al-Aqsa Mosque, in the area of the Noble Sanctuary, because this is where he was. They call it temple, but this is Al-Aqsa Mosque, the same place. Eventually, Al-Aqsa Mosque is in this since Adam alayhi salam, because we know that the first house of Allah was built in Mecca, the second house of Allah was in Jerusalem. So all prophets who've been in Al-Quds, they prayed in the Masjid Al-Aqsa. But at that time it was called Bayt al-Maqdis, the house of holiness. So Isa was he coupled the tables of the money changers, as it was mentioned in the Bible. It was in the area of the Masjid Al-Aqsa. But then after Isa alayhi salam, after many years, the Christian, they built over the place where they believe he was crucified, over the Golgotha, the mount of the hill of Golgotha, where they initiated the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. But before building the Holy Sepulchre, there was no other holy site other than Masjid Al-Aqsa in the city of Jerusalem. So in the beginning, Isa alayhi salam had this place as his center of spirituality, and the place where he called for Allah Azza wa Jal prayers, and for the people who strayed from the true path to came back and to follow his orders.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. Another question that I have is a very interesting one, Dr. Jallad, because the Al-Aqsa Mosque has been rebuilt and been renovated multiple times over the centuries. Can you walk us maybe through some of the most significant architectural changes and what they tell us about the region's political and religious history, particularly for Muslims?
We know that the Aqsa Mosque is very ancient. Back in history, we know that the cornerstones of the Masjid Al-Aqsa, the walls of that surrounding the whole vicinity, is very ancient. Yani one stone in the base, in the just in the wall, in the external wall, is weighing 572 tons, the same weight of a jumbo jet airplane. One piece of rock, that huge. It's maybe the second biggest rock in the world. So it is so huge. But so in order to make the wall, the supporting wall of because it is built on the mountain, then inside the compound, many buildings were erected throughout different eras, different prophets and kingdomship, but then were destroyed because of wars, because of earthquakes. But then when Umar bin Khattab, the second caliph, he conquered the city of Jerusalem, he built the Qibli Mosque, which is the one of the gray dome at the southern edge of the gate of the masjid. And then on the center of the compound, the fifth caliph of the Umayyad dynasty built Dome of the Rock. Dome of the Rock was built 691 AD, which means 1300 years ago. And since then, it was never been destroyed. Dome of the Rock, it's considered the oldest Islamic monument in the world. But
mm,
there were other edifices surrounding Dome of the Rock that were destroyed, for example, by an earthquakes, because here every 100 years we have a very strong earthquake, because we are close to the Syrian African crack, and that's
mm,
very, there is a very strong earthquake every 100 years. And the Crusader, they destroyed some of the buildings and converted some of the buildings into Crusader objects. But Dome of the Rock survived all these changes. And
mm,
then the Salahuddin, the Ayyubids, and the Ottomans, they built a lot of structures that make the Masjid al-Aqsa of today is like very a kind of mosaic, where every piece it can shows us different and very beautiful history. So we can find traces of all Muslim eras from the 1300 years ago till the Ottomans who just left the area 100 years ago. So if you look to the Masjid al-Aqsa, you can see a very active and very living museum, where when you come inside Dome of the Rock, you can see calligraphy of a mosaic of a most ancient Islamic calligraphy and mosaic ever in the world. And also you can see some parts, some marbles from the Crusader period. You can find, for example, water basin, water facilities from the Mamluk period, which is 700 years ago, and the platforms from the Ottoman period, the madrasas, the like seminaries from 700 years on. So speaking about the different monuments that bring us to go and scroll throughout the different Islamic periods and throughout the different renovation and additions that took place. Throughout Muslim history, the wealthy people, men and women, they would send money to Masjid al-Aqsa so that they built a monument so that it will commemorate their name. And at the same time, will bring like a house for the Sufis, for the people who want to have seclusion for their prayers. So from one hand, these people will have seclusion and pray for Allah. And from the second hand, the people who donated the money will have their name preserved, and Allah Azza wa Jal will remember their good efforts.
I want to talk about we often hear of Al-Aqsa being under threat, being in danger. For our listeners that might not know entirely why, can you give us perspective? What threats is Al-Aqsa Mosque and the compound in itself under at this current moment, and what can be done to preserve and protect it?
It's not a secret that the Israelis or the Jews, let's say, are planning to convert Al Masjid al-Aqsa into a synagogue. They claim day and night that they are planning to build a temple on the location of Al-Aqsa. They performed their prayers. You can imagine Jewish prayers inside a mosque. Like if you go to any like a Christian church and start praying Islamic prayers and claiming that you're gonna convert this church into a masjid. That's what's happening. They are performing their prayers in the compound freely, supported by the Israeli police. It's not hidden today. They can do all their practices within even the last months. They managed to escape some sacrifice. They want to make sacrifice that's related to their religious practices. That they have the Passover Passover like sacrifice. They want to make a sacrifice in the masjid, which means that's the highest part of their practices. And when they do this, they will be able to call this as a Jewish house of prayer. So if one side they are having their hands free in doing their religious practices as a Jewish practices in the Masjid Al-Aqsa, while from the Muslim side they are not allowed, many of them, they are not allowed to get into the masjid and not allowed to make a prayer inside. What do I mean by that? There are many people from the city itself that are deported from the masjid. They are banned from entering with different police orders. They not to forget that many people from the West Bank, which is like 10-15 kilometers far from the city, are not allowed to reach Al-Aqsa, and they need a special permit. So from the Jewish side, it's open. So the hundreds of thousands of people are welcome to come and to pray in the Masjid Al-Aqsa with Jewish rituals. And from the Muslim side, it is not allowed. Many of them are not allowed to come. And that's from the practices, but also from restoration. And for example, Dome of the Rock is sitting on a high place, and for the wind, and we have a very windy conditions here. Wind and rain will affect the construction and will affect the tiles that covers the walls of the building. And with the time, these tiles were cracked, and the water will penetrate and goes through the building, which will affect the most precious and valuable mosaics. So to make all these repairs, you are not have your hands free. You need to have an Israeli authority watching, and they need to be involved in this preparation. Although the Masjid Al-Aqsa is under the Jordanian supervision, and it is Jordan in terms of administration. So there is no need for the Israel to intervene in the administration of the masjid, because internationally it is well known to be part of the Jordanian supervision. And therefore many activities and many restoration are not being able to be done because of that restriction and because of many barriers being laid on the path, and making the masjid really under danger. And not to forget many activities of digging under, and it's surrounding the Masjid Al-Aqsa vicinity, speaking about a masjid which is 1300 years ago, and the digging will really affect the structure, and that might be very volatile to these kind of construction that might make like vibration in its basement and its cornerstones, and God forbid that might cause damage to the structure itself.
Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you giving us the time and those expert insights that you gave us on Al-Aqsa Mosque as we continue to commemorate Al-Aqsa Week. Jazakallah so much.
And I highly recommend and I invite all our brothers and sisters from different faiths to come to support our cause. And the only way is to come and to pray in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa for Muslim, will make the connection and prove that Al-Aqsa does not belong only to the Palestinian, it belongs to the whole Muslim nation. And also as very ancient masterpiece, it also belongs to the wood. It belongs to the civilized nations who need to preserve it and need to take care of it.
Most definitely. And with that, we've come to the end of that segment, our Al Aqsa Week commemoration segment. Thank you so much to Dr. Ehab Jallad. And yeah, those was really insightful and interesting takes. We're going to take a quick break. News and views will come back right after this.